there's so much going on in the collective consciousness. We've got the conflict in Ukraine. We've got all of the conflict that's going on the internet. We have all of the disinformation and misinformation. And we've got this feeling of powerlessness, against this greater scope of things. This is all if you're looking in this third dimensional human aspect. I'm speaking predominantly to light workers who understand the multidimensionality of it. But the thing is that there's a big difference between intellectual knowledge and concrete application. And I was just having a conversation with someone the other day, and she suddenly recognized, holy cow, I've been doing a huge spiritual bypass, where the things that were churning underneath that really needed to come up so that she can get on with really being in charge of fulfilling her divine soul purpose. And with that recognition, it's like, whoa, it opens up your mind and you're able to really address the things that were going on that you hadn't been paying attention to, or that you'd been giving lip service to. And so that's part of the upheaval and change. I've met a lot of people that are going through that. And I've been spending a lot of time in meditation, working behind the scenes on the collective consciousness. And, so I'm going through my shifts. The sadness is incredible. And I understand that it's humankind sadness, but you still feel it in your bones, especially if you're any kind of empath. And most people are, if they really feel into it. And so it's discerning the difference between what is my sadness of letting go so that I can shift into deeper levels of unconditional love. And that means letting go of my thought process from a human scale to really enter into the divine on deeper levels, and to discern between that and what is the collective consciousness that I'm feeling. And so for all light workers, this is what we are going through. So I just want to tell you that you're not alone. And what I wanted to talk about today was peace. But I want to talk about the price of peace. And I realized that there were really kind of 3 layers to peace. And so I've broken it down to, and given them titles so that you can maybe start to recognize where you are in this whole process. The first kind of peace is imposed peace by outside intervention. And this is something that we see all the time when we're telling, calm down, you calm down on an individual level, calm down. And who wants to be told to calm down? But, you maybe somebody that you trust, it's imposed from the outside. So it's like, okay, and you can calm down to a point, but not much further. And that's when you have a tendency to kind of just shut up and move on and say, okay, I'm going to work this out. I give it light, I give it light, I give it light. But it's all happening up here because you got this right here. So it's kind of a superficial piece. And then if we look at it socially, and you can also pull this down to individually, I like the example of two boys that are fighting in the schoolyard. And they're really duking it out. And all of the kids are around and they're either cheering it on or they're like, oh, no, 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 or whatever role that they're playing in this. It's when the teachers come in with outside intervention and they pull them apart and say, all right, I want you 2 boys to shake hands and make up. And they don't want to do that at all, but it's imposed peace. And so they shake hands and they shrug their shoulders, but they're from their own human perspective, they're dealing with that feeling of loss and damn it. And, and they're both fearful that they aren't loved or that they aren't respected. And that's what that whole fight was about, was that in their worlds, they weren't given the space to be heard. And so they didn't know how to give themselves space to be valued. And they're still looking outside, waiting for that value to be mirrored back to them. we see that going on in any kind of fight scenario, you know, and the people on the sidelines that are taking sides, you're inadvertently only feeding the conflict, when really what it does need is love and value and hearing both sides, letting the people be heard, so that a true resolution can come out, a deeper peace can come out, where one isn't winning and one isn't losing. But you see, when you're only dealing on that third dimensional space, then you have to have winners and losers, because that's what the third dimensional human experience has had traditionally in their collective consciousness. So the benefit of imposed peace by outside intervention, and so individually someone else tells you to suck it up, or you tell yourself, oh, suck it up, you know, stay calm, chin up, carry on, or somebody comes in from the outside, the benefit is you get a temporary pause, but the price is delayed conflict. And the more you delay a conflict, the bigger it's going to explode later. So you're better off in dealing with it as it comes along. So that's kind of the first. The second is what I call deviation peace. When I talk about the deviation peace, that's when you're pretending that it's not there or you're not culpable in any way. And so we talked about it in the first, where you just say, suck it up, or you give lip service to it. So on an individual level, it's that spiritual deviation, where you're dealing in this intellectual world. Oh, yes, I want peace. Oh, yes, peace. Everything is lovely. Everything is lovely. Well, I'll just give off a piece of me there, you know, so that I get along. It's all in the name of peace. And that's not peace. It's deviation peace. And again, anytime you put off real peace, then it's going to create more conflict on the inner and also on the outer. Socially, when you look at deviation peace, in the name of peace, you can read safety. For yourself or a group that you identify with, it's easy to get involved in the name game or blame game. That we see a lot of that going on in the internet. You could see it in yourself if you say, oh, if only he or she would, then I would. And so you're kind of getting involved in that deviation piece. Now, let's go back to looking at the students that were on the side of that conflict. They don't realize that they're feeding the conflict. And there are those that are on the sidelines that actually fed the conflict before it got to the fight in the schoolyard. But you see, the thing is that they don't want to admit it. That takes courage. The benefit of that is that temporary illusion of peace. Again, it's temporary. The price is living in a worldview that you have to live on the edge of insecurity all the time for the fear of any aggression that's going to come your way, because you're being aggressive with yourself and you're being aggressive, passive aggressive with others, because you've either been feeding it consciously or unconsciously. Which brings us to the really good stuff. And that's transformative peace. And that's real peace that opens up the doorways for emotional freedom and courage and clarity and just a tremendous sense of community and sense of well-being. And that's really what we all want. And although we've been taught to settle for the first two layers of peace, because you're a light worker, and because even if you're not a light worker, you can go for the whole package, and that's the transformative peace. And that's where the inner or outer conflict is actually transformed. It's alchemical, and you'll feel it in your bones, this emotional freedom. There's just more space, there's more tranquility, even in the cells of your being. Your health changed, there's a sense of dignity, and really a newfound respect for yourself, but also others who even think differently than you. It does take the most courage, and it's definitely the most rewarding. The price, well, you got to be willing to step outside of your old comfort zone. And you are going to meet initial resistance from those around you because they're afraid of change and they want to stay in their comfort zones. If you start behaving and acting a little bit differently, then they're going to want to try to keep you in that old box. It just takes patience and a little bit of courage and just a little bit of love, and just keep choosing peace for yourself, and you can emanate peace. And I'm going to give you some techniques on how to do that in just a second. The benefit, like I said, is the emotional freedom, the clarity, and just the courage to live your light. And the more people that do that, then that ripples out. And then we're all working in the same direction. An example of transformative peace, when you look at relationships. Now, again, what we need to keep in mind is that people want to be heard, and in hearing someone, you are also extending that respect. And this happens a lot when only one person within the marriage gets involved in their spiritual growth and the other doesn't. And they're not really sharing along the way. And so, you know, there's that surface piece that is going on, where it's either the deviation piece, you know, where we're not talking about the turmoil or the changes that are going on, and they're all staying on the surface until finally it erupts. This is where it takes courage. If you really want the transformative peace, it's a stop, look, let, love moment. You got to stop. Both of you stop. And if you both agree to stop, that's even better. And take a look at what you're doing and let go of what you're doing for just the moment. Let go of that conflict for just the moment. You can pick it up later. Nobody says that you can't keep going the way you were, but maybe there's a better way. So you let go. And just relax into yourself. I choose peace. Just each individually, I choose peace for a moment. And feel into, what do I want? Now, we've talked about this in other conversations where it's really hard for people because they're so busy doing what they think they want or what they think other people want, or trying to fill those other expectations in that us versus them mentality, all of these superficial things. So it really takes the courage to really look within, feel into it. So just first and foremost, I choose peace. And ask yourself, what do I want? And get really clear on that. What do I want? And if your partner is willing to do the same, the first thing that you go through is this layer of recognizing, I don't know what I want. And maybe I want this, maybe I want that. It's a difficult question, but what do I want? And then you come back together and you start talking. You can talk to each other and you can actually communicate with each other of, what do I want? And what do I want? Is it in direct conflict? You know, is there no way for the two? Then you got to do another stop, look, let, love. You just stop and say, okay, why do I want that? And it'll take you to a deeper want. Why do I want that? Why do you want that? If you go deep enough, eventually we all want the same thing, and that is respect and dignity and love. You know, these are all three layers of that love, but at least the respect and dignity, you know? And so then you can come back together and say, we both want that. Now, how do we create that? And that's when you can start to change the circumstances. So instead of fighting over just the circumstances, you can start to recreate the circumstances, keeping in mind that you both agree that you want the same thing. Now, how do we go about it? That's transformative peace. Now, I know you know this on a divine level, especially if you've really gotten deep into your light work. But what I'm going to encourage you to do is just step into your human self for a second and just look through the lens of humanity. You know, knowing that you've got all of this under your belt, and just take a look at, where am I giving a lip service to peace? Where am I staying in a little bit more of that pretend level that I don't need to, so that you can let go of that and it will automatically take you deeper. Your divine soul aspect, the part of you that is consciously aware of everything that ever was, is, and will be. This is your origin creation spark of divine self-awareness. There's no limit to how deep you can go into that. You can't, from a human point of view, even begin to fathom how deep you can go into that. But let's take a look at first, why do we avoid real peace? First and foremost, it's in our social makeup, and it's a habit more than anything else. You know, look at some of the messages that have been in the collective consciousness, our games and our songs. You got to beat your enemy. You know, you got to win. That's in all of the games. Winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. That was something that was in the collective consciousness for a long time. We treat our politics like it's a game, like it's a football match. You know, so you go in and you cheer really, really, really hard. And, you know, people, there are sections of our society that just go over the edge when their team loses. They have a horrible day. Their team lost. You know, this is in the collective consciousness. So even if you're deep within your spiritual awareness, you're still co-creating within this collective consciousness. So that does affect you. Part of the habit mind, if we give a little, they'll take a lot, and then we'll lose. We see that in the money game, you know, in people, the haves and the have-nots, and the haves are afraid that, well, if they give a lot to the have-nots, then they won't have anything. Because, and we've talked about this in other conversations about that whole prosperity consciousness thing, but that's in the collective consciousness. All of this is part of the habit. But see, the good news about a habit, a mental habit, or even a physical habit, you could stop and you could decide, what new habit do I want? And you can consistently let go of that old thought habit and start putting on and taking on new thought habits through trial and error and putting it into concrete action. Intellectual knowledge only counts on written exams. You got to live it to know it. And if you're not getting concrete results, you're not living it. And so I really want to encourage you that, because no matter where you are in your spiritual reawakening or unawakening, you might first perceive the intellectual knowledge, but then you've got to put it into practice. It's putting it into practice that gets you the concrete results, or the concrete failure, so that you could do course corrections. And then you get the concrete positive results, but you've got to put it into action. And I think if you give yourself permission to be a spiritual scientist, to really go through the trial and error of the communication with yourself and the communication with others, in the search for peace and understanding yourself, understanding others on deeper levels, and really go about it in very concrete ways. Start small, then you can work to big, or you can jump off the deep end of the swimming pool and go big. However you best feel called. But test it out through concrete practice so that you can get concrete results. The second reason we avoid real peace is that change is scary. This is in our basic DNA. You know, it's the fear of death, the dinosaur fear, you know, if somebody's bigger, better, and more powerful, they can come in and eat me. I mean, we've been dealing with that for a long, long time, but we are far enough along in our socialization. We are far enough along that we are able to step out of that paradigm and step into a new paradigm. And don't wait for the world to do it. You do it for yourself. That's how it ripples out, but it starts with you, and then it becomes us. And then you get like minds together, not to create an us versus them mentality, but that you emanate this together. Nobody is exempt from this. We are in this together. To kind of a wrap up on this whole transformative peace, and then I want to share with you how you can use this to assist the conflict in Ukraine and Russia. On a personal level, you want to start first with you, because wherever your state is, that's what you're emanating in the world. Okay. We talked about the stop, look, let, love. let's say you're in such a turmoil and it's so scary stepping into the new. Let me give you just a real quick little technique that works, and it'll get your juices flowing. And if you do it together with the basic activation of Divine Light Vibrations guided meditation that's right here on the YouTube channel to start with, once you do it, you just say to yourself, I choose peace. In fact, do it right now with me. Just do it right now. You haven't even done the meditation. Just let your hands relax on your lap. Just be relaxed and just feel gravity in your body. And then just say to yourself, I choose peace. And be real open and curious. What does peace feel like? Don't try to imagine it. Just let that thought register in your body and feel more gravity. I choose peace. And then I choose peace for my face. And feel the teeny muscles on your face. They'll do something different. They'll kind of relax. They'll relax into the gravity. They'll relax. Just, I choose peace. And with 3 breaths, peace. And then put your attention on your hands. I choose peace. And you let your hands express peace in their way, which is going to be different than your face. Peace. Peace. And then put your attention on your feet. Feel the gravity in your body. I choose peace. And your feet will express peace in a different way. Peace. Peace. And then put your attention deep in the trunk of your body. Relax your stomach and just choose peace. 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 Now, if you're not feeling even slightly more relaxed in yourself, you didn't do it. When you really do it, your natural state of being is one of love. And inherent in love is peace. Everything else takes work. So you start with you, and then you let it ripple out. The more you do this consistently, and you could think of it like brushing your teeth. You know, you brush your teeth once a month, it's not going to get a whole lot done. You need to brush your teeth every day. So it's the same thing with meditation, or even just taking however long that just took to relax into yourself. You'll slowly learn to speak your light and to be your light in the world. You will start to discover other people that think and feel similar. And you can come together and join your light. That will magnify wherever 2 or more are gathered. You know, think of this like a musical note, you know, and you play a chord on a guitar. And 1 string has 1 resonance, but 2 strings together creates a chord, and it's greater than the 2 that are coming together. It's all vibrational. And then you get 3 notes, and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7. And then you become part of this greater symphony of change, where we're changing the outer circumstances because we're changing those inner worlds that we're all living. And then how you can assist the Ukraine and Russian conflict is, remember that both sides want their respect and they want their dignity. And so there's fair in play. Putin is afraid that he's losing his place on the world stage. Ukraine is afraid that they're going to get consumed. They want their autonomy. And so they're fighting out on that circumstantial, that surface level. But if you were really to relax into it, and you see, they both kind of want the same thing. It's just that they're fighting it out in the circumstances level. And then you've got all of the players around it that are like the kids in the schoolyard, not looking at their culpability in the situation. So what can you as an individual do to help? In your meditations, especially after you've done the basic activation meditation, the fourth step is when you send your light to the far reaches of the known universe and beyond, and then you let the light and love come in from the other side. And this stretches your paradigm, your worldview. But then you send your love to the center of this conflict, center to circumference, and you let your love flow out so that respect and dignity and peace can reign. If enough people do that, then that will spread out all across the world. Because see, this war game is so inherent in our collective consciousness. And this is something that we all, as light workers, we all need to come together and do. And you can do it individually in your own meditations. You get together with other people, again, wherever two or more are gathered. But even if we have 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000, 10 million, 100 million, we all make a difference. We all make a difference. And we're in this together. So it starts with you, and let it ripple outwards. And then you listen to your inner guidance. If you feel called to assist refugees, assist them in very concrete ways. If you feel called to donate your time and money for food or supplies, then you do that. You assist humanity. But in the meantime, be sure to be sending your love to both sides, because we don't want this to escalate. And in that marriage, all needs can be met. Where it becomes really a big challenge is that if you're only looking on the 3D human scale, the appearance of it seems like it is escalating, it's getting worse. If you are only listening to one news channel, then you're only getting one narrative, and there's lots of narratives going out, and it can seem totally overwhelming. There's no denying that. Stop. You stop. I'm going to say it one more time. Stop. Take care of yourself. Step back. You feel that ache in your heart because you feel the ache for the people. You feel the ache in your heart because you feel the ache for war. Because in your heart of hearts, you don't want war. In your heart of hearts, you know that there's a better way. So you stop. Step back. Do not push down on that ache. Let it flow. Let it come up. And that first step of the basic activation, where you're letting love flow, let the transformative elements of divine light, infinite intelligence that knows all things, omniscient wisdom that knows how to manage all things for the highest good of all, and omnipotent, unconditional love that can. You go ahead and feel those feelings. You don't have to put any action to it. You don't need to fix anything. You let go and you let love flow. You just let love flow. No matter how long it takes, if you just, I'm letting the light do the work. I'm letting light flow. But not I'm letting, because then you're doing deviation. No, you let go. And I'll tell you what I'm feeling right now, because I was feeling the ache, because I still feel the ache, but I'm now starting to feel expansions. So there's ache and there's expansions. So I know something's going on. So I'm just going to let the light do the work. I'm just going to sit here And I know in the process that my thought processes are being transformed. The ache is being transformed. I can feel expansions going on. Interestingly enough, the ache before was there. Now it's becoming really contracted. It might seem like it's getting bigger, but what's happening is that the outer layers, the outer layers, the outer layers are being transformed. So now it's just like a knot here. If you're an empath, do this along with me. It's all right here, right on that divine soul level. So it's like is wanting to expand. Now it's expanding. So it was just the recognition of that expansion. Again, if you're an empath, I say do this along with me. You can feel it. Okay, so now the outer layers, so that there's no longer that big knot. It's moving up. Now it's really hitting my thought processes. I can literally feel my brain synapses disconnecting and reconnecting because it kind of feels tight, but it's crackling a little bit. Okay, so just in seeing that and acknowledging it, letting the light do the work. Now I'm feeling this open up there. I no longer feel that same tightness in my chest, but now I'm feeling it in my throat. The nice thing is that the way we work is that there's this incredible synchronicity between the different layers of us. The throat's usually the last because we're the last to speak our light. We're most in the habit of tamping down on that, using the deviation piece or intervention piece. Okay, but now that's opening up. Okay, and that opening up, now I'm feeling it here. Basically, you get the thing. I'm not going to make you sit here through the whole thing, but that whole tightness there now is no longer gone, is no longer where it is. I'm still aware of it, but that's letting the light do the work. So now what I'm going to do is, since I'm in a much better space, I'm from a divine soul to just all of the divine souls within the conflict, but also that, again, I don't have to imagine, I'm just saying, yes, I'm going to communicate to all divine souls and let that grid out. And then on a human heart to human heart, I'm going to do both sides of the conflict. I'm going to transmit the thought, you can work this out. There is a peaceful conflict resolution. There is a better way. And now I'm going to, and I'm feeling a tightness, really a lot of things shifting here. So I'm also transmitting the thought, open up your minds, there's a better way. And I'm sending that out to the world. Open up your minds and hearts, there's a better way. We choose peace. Choose peace. We can choose peace. So let's choose peace. Let me just let this last little wave roll out. Okay. And that's what you can do for others. And in doing for others, you've also done for yourself. I certainly have done for myself. So thank you. Go live your light. Do the basic activation meditation. We could do this together. We can create a better world and a newer world where peace reigns. That's why we're here.